Hi there, folks. Greg. This is going to be assignment number 2. I'm going to describe it. I just made a whole video, and I forgot to have the microphone on, so I had to delete that. Starting over again. So here we are, assignment number 2. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. I'm going to put on 2 more scripts. I'm going to put 2 more scripts on Canvas. I'm going to put on the pilot script for the TV show Friends. It's 25 years old, but it's a really good example of, and we'll talk more about this as we get into this course, of a true ensemble show. I mean, there's a lot of ways to categorize sitcoms and TV shows in general, but as you'll see with sitcoms, you know, there's ensemble shows, there's two-handers, which is a Hollywood term for shows that are about 2 people, generally a husband and wife or 2 best friends or whatever it might be, where you have 2 leads. And then there's sort of single protagonist shows like Frasier. I mean, yes, there's an ensemble of other actors that supported Frasier, but he was the main character. It was generally about what was going on. The show was about what was going on in his head, and he was the main protagonist, okay? Friends is more like Modern Family. You know, I think you'll see the comparison when you read the pilot. You know, the 6 characters are really treated as pretty equal in terms of them all getting like their own little story every episode, okay? It's not like 1 or 2 of them are the main leads and the rest are of smaller importance. Now, if you look at, you read Brooklyn Nine-Nine, if you look at Brooklyn Nine-Nine, that's a little bit more like, what was I going to use an example of? Regardless, that's a mixture. In other words, it's not like Friends. They're not all of equal importance. The Jake character is number 1, and the Captain Holt character is a very close number 2. And then the other characters, the different detectives on the show, are also important, and they often have their own small plots in every episode, but they're of lesser importance to those 2 main characters, okay? Not the way. Friends is a true ensemble, and I think it's important to notice that. All 6 of them are pretty evenly serviced in the show. So look at that, and pay attention to, just as for your own learning, pay attention to the way they're introduced. We'll come back to that Friends spec script. It'll have a lot of similarities, as I said, to the Modern Family Friends pilot script, the Modern Family pilot script. As you saw in the Modern Family pilot script, all of those many characters are introduced very quickly with very quick, definitive scenes that tell you who they are right away. This person's the dumb one. This person's the silly one. This person's the controlling one. That would be Claire. This person's the curmudgeon. That would be Jay, etc. And you get that usually in the first handful of lines when those characters come in. So something that we'll talk more about as we go on and we start writing is how to introduce characters. Okay, so I'm just putting that bug in your ear now. So as for the 2 scripts that are on Canvas, on file, so the pilot for Friends, excuse me, too much coffee today, and another Modern Family. So you can see how they kept going. It'll either be episode 2 or episode 3 of that original first season. Okay. Also, so you can get familiar with Modern Family, because we'll write some Modern Family scenes in this class as well. So I need to get you sort of up and running with Modern Family and familiar with it if you aren't just from the show, from having seen it. It's better to become familiar with it from the page, frankly, anyways. Okay, so what's this assignment about? It's the same thing. You're going to diagram these two scripts, okay? You're going to find the protagonist. It's about who did what to whom. The active verb. Capitalize the active verb. Don't capitalize anything else. Sorry, I'll kill that. Don't capitalize anything else but the active verb. But you're going to do something different in this assignment. You're going to go a little farther. You're going to identify the obstacle that the character is trying to overcome with their action. There is almost always an obstacle for every action. Actually, always, really, always. Okay? Every single sentence you write in both of these 2 new diagrams, you're going to use either the word despite or the word but. Okay? It has to have but or despite in it. So that means you're going to be looking for the obstacle. I'll give you examples. I just use made up characters from a made-up script that I'm dreaming up. Okay, so here's a good example. Let's say you're watching a scene where there's a character named Nancy, and she's working at some job, and maybe she's got a terrible boss who's making her do too hard a job. He's working her too hard, or she's working Nancy too hard. She can't handle all the work, and maybe the boss is hoping that Nancy will quit because of it. Okay, that could be a funny scene if it was written by a funny person. So how would I describe that in this new manner with but or despite? I'd write Nancy juggles, that's the capitalized active verb. Nancy juggles tasks at work despite the boss giving her too much work. Get it? Just identifying the problem. Nancy's trying to do a good job. Her boss is trying to make it impossible for her. So she does what she does. That's the action. She juggles tasks. Or you could write, she tries very hard to do everything at work. Just use an active verb. Juggles is probably easier. She juggles tasks at work despite her boss giving her a million tasks. What comes after the despite is the obstacle. Identify obstacles. You have to have obstacles in drama and especially in comedy writing. Okay, now I'll give you that. And by the way, that's clearly an external conflict. Another thing that I'm trying to hip you to that I want to keep pointing out, we'll talk more about, internal versus external conflicts. Okay, you have to have both, really, in every script. Otherwise, scripts just get boring real quick. Okay, and you'll see that in Modern Family. You saw that in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. There's both types. Okay, so that was an example of an external conflict for a character I made up called Nancy. She's juggling tasks at work despite the boss giving her too many tasks. The boss giving her too many tasks is the obstacle. You're always going to add that. Okay, now, give you another example. Jim proposes to Mary despite his fear of commitment. Okay, he proposes to Mary, that's your active verb, despite his fear of commitment. Is that an internal or an external obstacle? It's internal. Okay, it's a very common, actually, internal obstacle for a character to have in a lot of romantic comedies and movies and TV shows. Okay, so Jim proposes, that's your capping. You don't cap anything else. And then you just use the word despite his fear of commitment. Or you could say despite his reservations about intimacy. Or you could say despite being scared of kissing Mary, or whatever it might be. It depends on the scene, obviously, and the details of the scene. But again, there's more than one right answer to pegging the verb and also pegging the obstacle. But you're going to add an obstacle, but or despite, and then a following obstacle to every single sentence you write in both these diagrams. Sorry. Again, there's nothing more entertaining than watching somebody drink water. Anyways, so another example, here's an exterior obstacle. Julio teaches his class, but they throw erasers at him. Pretty obvious, teaching, and then you can use but. You don't have to use despite. You can use but, like when it's an action that follows right away, so it becomes an obstacle. But the students are throwing erasers at him. Okay. Here's an interior one. No, I'm sorry. This is another exterior one I thought up. I mean, I'm brilliant with these. Lucinda rejects, in caps, the salesman, but he returns over and over. So perhaps it's a scene where this, if we still had door-to-door salesman, is coming to her door and he pitches her on something he's selling. She slams the door. He keeps coming back. She slams the door. She tells him to go away. She screams at him, whatever she does, over and over again. Okay? But him returning is the obstacle. What she's doing is she's rejecting him, but he's returning over and over again. Got it? But or despite, in every sentence, identify the obstacle. Okay? Why is this important? Okay. As I told you before, you have to have action. I think that was clear in the two scripts that you saw. I mean, that you've already read. Actions are hugely important. Actions can be subtle or they can be very overt. They can be someone stabbing someone in a horror movie, but they can also be someone embarrassing someone by making a joke about them. Whereas their embarrassing would be your active verb, right? So when you have actions, there's usually an obstacle, right? Some sort of obstacle getting in the way, or they're trying to do something despite something, or, that's why I use but or despite, or there's an immediate reaction, but, Bill steals the money, but the victim arrests him. Okay, so the two things are like one thing and the other thing, right? Action, obstacle. Okay, sometimes, most of the time, the obstacle is very clear from the beginning of the scene, and that's why the character is taking the action. But sometimes the obstacle comes up very quickly in the scene after the character tries something. Somebody asks someone on a date, and then they say something, and that becomes a problem. I can't go on a date because, you know, I don't like you, or whatever it might be. Well, that becomes the obstacle in general to the romantic, you know, intention of the first character. Okay, so we're going to use button despite in every sentence. Obstacles are important because characters need obstacles. They need to overcome obstacles so they can, so you can have drama. And sitcoms have tons and tons of drama. It's just hopefully funny drama. Funny drama. Okay, so that's why we're identifying obstacles. This will become more and more important when you start writing your scenes. Please send stuff on time. That's the easiest way to get an A. The easiest way not to get an A is to send something the day afterward or 2 days afterward, 3 days afterwards. Oh my gosh, I don't even want to talk about it. It's too scary for me. Please send stuff on time. Please don't jump ahead. When we get to writing, you can't write until you've done these other assignments. You've got to do everything in order. There's a reason for all this stuff. I'm building a very simple skills base and helping you identify certain things in screenplays, in TV scripts, so that when you're writing them, I can call it back and I can say, in your, you know, in the scene that you wrote, like a month from now when you're writing a scene, I can say, you know, you need more of an obstacle, and you'll know what I mean because you've identified it over and over in other writers' work. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I'm putting the 2 scripts now on files, as I said, Friends pilot, a new Modern Family script. Any questions? DePaulG@newschool.edu. Thank you very much, and see you soon. And as I said, I think in the text in the assignment, I am going to be setting up some Zooms. So if you can make them, we can discuss the course and get into more of the subject matter. Okay? We also talk about what shows you like, because I like plenty of shows, and I like to hear what people like. And you can keep contributing to the discussion. I just went in there and added some comments on the discussion, that first discussion as well. Okay, thank you so much. Hope you're doing well.